Okay, crochet essentials. We're going to go through some basics today. This is all stuff that is just stuff you're going to want to know always. Techniques that you're going to use for almost every project, and sometimes you might want to refer back, especially if you're really new. So we've got I'm using chunky yarn just to make it easier to see what's going on. With this yarn, we've got a 5mm hook. I always use metal ones. I have a few plastic, and I burned all my bamboo ones because they're just not my thing. Other things that you're really going to want to have for your crocheting journey, I think, are stitch markers. I am never without them. You're also going to want some scissors. See, look, more stitch markers. You can never have too many. And a yarn needle. I've lost all my good ones, so I'm currently using this plastic one. But really, it does the job and it's great. So these are the things, basics that you're going to need to get started. And a pattern. But we can go into that another time. So let's start with a slip knot. I recently discovered that the way that I do slip knots is a bit mental, but I'm going to show you my way anyway. So you've got your string. The working end is always the end that is attached to the ball of yarn, and the tail end is the other end. So pretty self-explanatory there. What you're going to do is you're going to loop your yarn like this. Like I say, this is how I do it. Sorry, apologies. Like this. So you've got the tail end here. And this is how I do it. Again, I've been told it's mad. So it's a little bit like that that rhyme about the rabbit goes around the tree and down back into the hole, and you pull the tail. And that is your slip knot. Slip, slip, slip. There are much simpler ways to do it. It's just this is how I learned. So you've got your tree. The rabbit comes up around the tree and down back into the rabbit hole. And you pull the tail. It's quite good to... I like this way because if I start doing my slip knot and I realize that I want a longer tail, then it's easy to just pull it and so anyway, so that's how I do my slip knot. Judge me, don't judge me, your call. So we've got our slip knot, and you're going to tighten it up around your hook. Da, 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 da. Now, holding your yarn. So this is, there's two things you're going to want to learn to hold your hook. Again, there's no right or wrong way to do this. Some people get judgy. Some people understand that everyone's different. I am the latter. I hold my hook like this. So you could call it the knife method if you want. There are some people that hold it like a pencil. I've seen some mental ways to hold hooks, but this is how I hold the hook. So you kind of hold where this flat bit on the hook is, and it's whatever's comfortable. You can get different types of hooks. Some of them are more ergonomic, so they've got big chunky handles that can be nicer for projects if you're going, big projects and stuff. But personally, I'm happy with these ones. So again, it's all about preference. Okay, so this is how you're going to choose how you're going to hold your hook. So you're going to go either your knife method or your pencil method. Play around with it, see what works. In your other hand, you're going to hold your yarn. So again, there's a few different ways that people do this. Some people go for this epic wrapping situation. And, again, it's preference. I hold like this. So you've got a little bit of tension So wrapping it around the pinky finger a couple of times, and then over your pointer finger. Ta-da! And your index finger is here, keeping the keeping the project on the hook if you're worried. And when you do it like this, it means that you can pinch your project. So if you're needing to, again, it's all about what works for you. As long as you're doing the stitches right, how you complete them is completely irrelevant. Okay, so first up, chaining. So we've got our loop on our hook. This is our first loop. To chain, we are going to yarn over, which is exactly how it sounds. We're putting the yarn over the hook and pulling through. Over the hook, pull through. Whoops, and don't use cheap yarn that splits. Over the hook, pull through. One of the best pieces of advice that I ever got when and actually it wasn't from anyone I knew, it was from online forums. So if you are learning and wanting to get a better idea of what will work best for you, then I would say join as many online forums as you can, because that is where your people are. That is where you're going to get the cool ideas, the fun ways to do things, the awesome pattern recommendations. So I'm just zooming in here so you can see it a little better. That is where you're going to get all the cool stuff. And on one of these online forums, I was chatting with someone, and they said the best thing that you can do if you have the time and you really want to get good at this is just sit and chain and chain and chain. It's something that you're always going to have to do, and it can be a real pain at the beginning of a project, especially if you're doing a big blanket and you have to chain like 100, 200 chain stitches, and you're basically sitting there with your program on TV just like chaining. This is I highly recommend just getting really happy with your training stitch. Another recommendation, top tip, if you are doing a big project, you have to do like 150, 200 chains. I tend to chain 20, for example, and then just pop a stitch marker. It's just going to make it a lot easier when you finish chaining to go, okay, if you need 200 chains, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, that's 200 chains. Just a little tip. That's what I do. So that's chaining. There you go. And they pull out really easily. It's really satisfying. So we have our chains all done. The next thing you're going to do is we're going to learn the single crochet. So single crochet is the most common stitch, I think, single and double crochet, that you're going to come across in patterns. It's super versatile. You can do so much with it. So it's a real good one to know. So we're going to do we've got our chains, pick up our thing. I'm going to wrap the finger. This is how I hold mine. And you're going to pinch your work with this hand. Keeps it steady so it's not sliding around. Okay, so single crochet. You are going to find in the top of these V's, there's a V, here's a V. So single crochet. In the top of these V's, these are your chains, and you've got this loop in the top of each. There's also a loop in the back. It's very easy to get twisted with a chain. So always make sure you've got your V's facing you. Single crochet into your foundation chain. You're not inserting into the first chain on the hook, which is there. You're first inserting into the second. So you've got two loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull through. So there's your 2 loops. You're then going to yarn over again and pull through, and you've done your first single crochet. So we'll do that again. So we've just worked into this chain. You can see the stitch there. So we're not going to work into that one. We're going to work into the next one. So you've got your next stitch here. So you're pushing into that and yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through. Let's do that again. So we're not working into this one, we've just worked into this one. This chain here, hook goes in, yarn over, pull through, got your 2 loops, which I think is possibly why the UK call it a double, I don't know. And then you're going to yarn over again and pull through both loops on your chain, on your hook, sorry. So we'll just do that super close up so you can see. Next chain, yarn over and pull through. Yarn over and pull through. Ta-da! So we'll just do this all the way down your chain. And once you've done this a few times, this is another one like chaining. Even if you just work on making a bunch of squares in single crochet, once you've done this a few dozen times, it kind of feels like second nature. You'll get the muscle memory and yarn over, pull through. You'll get the muscle memory, and all of a sudden you won't even, it's hard to sometimes describe it because you don't even think about it when you're doing it. So okay, and this is our last chain on the hook, last chain in the foundation row, sorry. Pull through, and there you have it, your row of single crochet. Most patterns will then call for a chain 1, and then we turn our work. So this is the back, and this is the front. I would always recommend when you're learning, just find some real basic, easy peasy projects that are maybe only single crochet. Market bags, you know, granny squares are more like double crochet, but easy peasy projects that are all this one stitch. By the time you've got to the end of that project, you'll feel like you could teach someone how to do it yourself. You'll be so confident. Dun, dun, dun. And you'll be, oh, there's a big chunk of something in my yarn there. Uh-oh. There's a top tip. Pay attention to your yarn. This one's clearly all tangled. We're going to plow through that. Do as I say, not as I do. Definitely don't do this. This is just a little sample though. It's not a real project, so I'm not worried. Another top tip, I would say, something that, look at that big knot, something that tripped me up a lot when I first started to crochet is I could not be bothered to count my stitches, and it meant that if I had to do, say, 10 stitches across, and I thought that I'd done 10 stitches, instead of just taking the time to go, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, and I want 15 stitches, I would just assume that I'd done all my stitches. And sometimes I would not see, or if I'd done my tension wrong, you might find that this stitch is really tight, or you might have forgotten to chain 1, so this is really flat and you don't realise that you've lost a stitch. Because you want to find those problems before you've done another 10 rows on top of this and realise that you're slowly losing stitches and your piece of work is turning into a weird shaped triangle. So, which brings me to my next top tip. Let's just chain 1, is stitch markers. So I never used to use stitch markers. I thought they were just fiddly and annoying, didn't understand the point, until I was having this problem with losing my stitches, especially on if you're doing something complicated or you're working in the round or something like that. Until you get really confident, and even then you might not. I know a lot of people that have been crocheting for years who still do this. Stick a stitch marker on the first, so you've chained 1, you're ready to go. This loop on your hook is the first stitch of your next row. Stick the stitch marker over that loop and then carry on with your work. So I've done my next row with my big ugly knot in the middle there. Chain 1 and we turn, and then I'm going to stick my next stitch marker. I'm going to use that one because it's massive. I've chained my 1 and I've turned. I'm going to stick my next stitch marker here. This is where I'm at. Stitch marker, stitch marker. Okay, so now we're going to do our next row. So we've got our stitch marker on one end and we're working towards the other end. So this is the best way I've found to make sure that you're not going to lose any stitches. So if you've got, say you're doing a project that's 50 or 100 stitches long and you don't want to keep counting, oh my goodness, to make sure that you've got all of your, to make sure that you've got all of your stitches, you don't want to count 100 stitches every other row just or whatever to make sure. So let's just check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, I've put it in the wrong stitch there. 14. And, wow, that was a horrible example because I did it wrong. 15. 15. There we go. Ta-da. So we're gonna chain 1, place our stitch marker. Oh, that's why I did it wrong. I put it on the wrong stitch because your chain 1 in this situation acts as your first single crochet. So we're gonna put it around our stitch. And off we go again. So first 1. Do that wrong? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I didn't do it wrong. So the stitch marker was in this stitch. I counted wrong. See, this is why stitch markers are good. You can just trust your process. So there we go. There's your little row of single crochet. Ta-da! So, on to our next. We've done all of our single crochets here. Now we're going to talk about double crochet. So, double crochet, again, super versatile. There's so much that you can do with double crochet. You can make ribbing with it. It's a good way to create lots of height if you're looking to make a bigger project or blankets. You can cross the stitches. You can do them in funky ways. You can do them in two-tone colours. Oh, it's great. So really worth knowing double crochet. The nice thing about, again, American and English terms, single crochet would be number 1, smallest stitch, double crochet, 2, double 2, second stitch, and then you come to treble crochet. So, and which is the 3rd biggest stitch. It's pretty self-explanatory. In UK terms, you've got no single crochet. You've got first stitch is double. The second is half double and then triple. Oh, I don't know. I work in US terms. I'm really sorry. I will find a I'll make a post about what you're gonna do for translating the different stitches in US and UK terms. So we've got our little project here. These are all single crochet. To start a double crochet row, usually, not always, but usually, it's going to be a chain 2. In our single, we did a chain 1 and turned. In our double, we're going to do a chain 2. Chain 2. And then you're going to turn. This generally, but again, not always, works as the first double in your row, but there are patterns that obviously don't have that. If you're working in the round or joining, sometimes this is doesn't count as a first double. So always read your pattern. So we've done our chain 2. We're going to find our next next stitch to go into. So I'm going to place my marker. And because this is the first double in my row, I'm going to place it in this stitch here, because my final stitch is going to be worked into the top of this. So, for double crochet, you are going to wrap your yarn. In a single crochet, you went straight into your stitch. You had one loop on your hook, straight into your next stitch. For a double, you're going to wrap your yarn. You are going to find your next stitch. I'm going to go into this one here and go through, same as you did with the single. You are then going to yarn over, as you did with the single, and pull through. The difference here is that with a single, you would have had 2 chains on your hook. With a double, you now have 3. Same process with the single. You're going to yarn over, and you're going to pull through, but you're only going to pull through 2 of the loops. So you've made effectively a single crochet. You're then going to yarn over again and pull through those next 2 loops on your hook. So you've made this longer stitch. You can see below here, this is a single crochet that's underneath it. There's your double. So we'll do that again. And we'll do it slow so that it's easy to follow, because it's a lot of yarning over, and sometimes you can feel like you're excessive with the yarning over and actually you're doing it absolutely right. So 1 loop, yarn over, makes 2 loops for your double crochet, which I think is the easiest way to remember. Double, 2 loops. You're finding your next stitch. So we went into this stitch here already. So our next stitch along is this one. You can find it on the V's along the top. Sorry, bad view on the camera. So next stitch on your thing. in your work, and you're going to push through and yarn over, pull up. 3 loops on your hook. 1, 2, 3. Okay. You're going to yarn over again, because we haven't done enough of that, and pull through 2 loops. So you have made a single crochet. Ta-da! Single crochet, and you've still got 2 to go, so you're going to yarn over again and pull through. And now you've made a double crochet. You're stacking your stitches. 1, 2. So that's the way I remembered it anyway. So let's go again. Yarn over, 2 loops, double, 2 for double. Through your next stitch, pull through. You get 3. You're going to yarn over again, pull through 2 because you're doing a double, and pull through 2. So you can start to see the difference between, this is our row of single crochet, and then on top of that we've got our single crochet, and these are our doubles. So this right here is the last row of single, really nice and thin, and this is the double. So this is what I mean when I say it's a great way to create height in work if you're doing a blanket or you're making a hat, for example, you know. But it is a bit of a looser stitch. So, and again. So let's go to the end of the row. I'll race you there. Whoops, did it wrong already. Okay, this is where our stitch markers come in handy. These are much easier to count. So I've got my stitch marker in here. And as you can see from my work, there is a step there, but it's real subtle. And this is what tripped me up a lot as a beginner. So if we count our stitches, 1, 2, 3, you can see them by the bars that are, it's like a bar. This is the stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And I started with 15 stitches. You can see how my work is kind of going. So if I hadn't placed my stitch marker in the top of that stitch, it would be very easy to miss that completely and go, oh yeah, okay, no, that's that. I've come to the end of my row and I'm good. I'm going to chain 2 and turn. Easy peasy. Not so. Because this stitch, especially when you're working into the top of chain 2, for example, it's really easy to miss this. So I placed my stitch marker here, so now I can see that this right here is my final stitch. So I've gone into this one, and now for my 15th, I'm going to yarn over. You might want to take your stitch marker out for this now that you've already seen that you need to go one more time. And you're going into, whoops, the top of that chain 2, pull through, and then finish your final stitch. So now you have 15. So this is why I use stitch markers religiously. It's also because I am a person that watches a lot of Netflix and YouTube while I'm crocheting. So I've done my chain 2. And I'm going to place my stitch marker into that chain. There. Turn. And off we go. Yeah, I watch a lot of YouTube and Netflix and Disney. And I like to make crochet as mindless as possible, especially when I'm working on big projects, because it's my way of keeping my hands busy and creating beautiful things without having to scratch my head and constantly be counting and doing all sorts of drama. And the amount of times that I've had to take my work apart completely because I lost track of my stitches 7 rows ago or 10 rows ago, and then I turn around and look at it and count the stitches because there's 150 and I couldn't be bothered to keep counting them, and I've messed it up and I've lost like 6 stitches. And you can't just add those back on, you have to go back to where you messed it up, which means undoing all your hard work, which is a nightmare. So come to our end of our row. You'll see here I've still got a stitch marker in here. I've got 1 more stitch to go in the top of my chain 2 into there, and ta-da! So that is how I use stitch markers to be as mindless with my crochet as possible. That ugly knot, let's turn it that way. So we've done single crochet, done a couple of rows of single and a couple of rows of double crochet, so you can see the difference in the stitches. The half double crochet is another awesome stitch that you want to have in your wheelhouse, because again it's super versatile. It's really good for making ribbing, for giving texture, for adding height, but it's not as big as the double crochet. So half double crochet would be in between the single and the double. Yarn over, through the stitch, yarn over, pull through. You've got 3 loops on your hook. You're now going to yarn over, and so in the double crochet we would have pulled through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, right? That's a double crochet. In the half double crochet, you're here, and instead of yarning over and pulling through 2, you're going to pull through all 3, and just like that. So that's the difference between the two. So it's, and I think that's why I would say you'd call it a half double. It's half. It's not a single, it's not a double. So let's do it again. Yarn over, through your next stitch, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3, yarn over, next stitch, yarn over, pull through all 3. And it's going to get real, again, like the single and like the double, it's going to get really easy to go real quick with this. So we'll just go to the end of the row and then we'll look at the stitches and the difference. Whoops. Through and pull through all 3. So I'm just going to do one more row so that we can have a proper look at the difference between the two. So we're going to chain 1 and turn. Okay, and then we're going to place our stitch marker. Yarn over, find your next stitch. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. So, yarn over, yarn over, pull through, and then all three. And there we go. Tension's all a little bit off and wonky here. So, here we go. So here's our little sampler. So we started off with our single crochet, which was these rows, with my big knot. We went on to do our double crochet, which was, you can see the size difference, and the height of them is significantly larger. Oh, that's better, there we go. Significantly larger size. And then we went on to our half double crochet, which is these ones here. So a big difference between them, you'll be able to see in the stitches. Focus, 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 focus. Is in the way that the stitch looks. It's got extra lines. It's the best way to describe it. There are some pretty cool stitches out there that you can come across and play about with. Really cool shapes, things that you can do with these, and we'll do those in another video. So if you are wanting to get on the granny square trend, this double crochet is going to be your best mate, but we'll cover that in another video. So there you have it. There are your basics. So we did chaining, slip knot, chaining, how to hold your hook, single crochet, double crochet, half double crochet.